Okay, welcome everyone. I am excited to have Veronica Connors here with me. Veronica is a healer. She guides people towards becoming more conscious, and so I'm excited to have you here, Veronica. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk about consciousness with you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this conversation too. Before we dive into that, I'm curious about, I'd like for you to share with the audience your story of awakening, because I find it interesting that everybody kind of comes to this awareness of being conscious. I feel like a lot of us maybe go through life not very conscious. Maybe in the back of our mind, we have this feeling of like, oh, there's got to be something more to life, but we don't really know how to break through that wall, and we kind of sleepwalk through life. I'm curious what was your own journey to awakening?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think too, sometimes we think we're conscious or we think we're on the path to consciousness. And it's not until we start to become and practice it more that this whole new world opened up that we don't even know exists until it opens up to us. And that was kind of true for me. So I call it like the gift of a near-death experience. And I know that's a strange thing to say. And at the time, it didn't feel like a gift. Of course, it was scary. It was painful. All my negative programs came up as I worked through this emergency and this trauma. And I just really made it worse than it was because of my own unconsciousness, really, when I look back at it.
Yeah.
So what happened was I was 39 at the time. And, I was well into self-help and reading all the latest books and thought I was practicing consciousness. But when I look back, I was a high sensitive person, like much of the world. And um, I was overwhelmed a lot. I was in a protective, I call it dukes up mode, like living with my dukes, pushing people away. I didn't even know I was doing that. I thought I was like a real, in another way, I was a very soft person, really gentle person. But in another way, I had this big front to me. And when this near death experience happened, I had 3 children. They were 7, 6, and 4, maybe even a little younger than that. I had left my job as a teacher for 12 or 14 years, and um, we had moved twice. We had moved home, and I was just into like motherhood, taking care of these kids on committees, doing the community work, volunteering, just doing everything in that new role to me full time, and having left a lot of the things that kept me balanced too behind. And the week that led up to that experience was a very painful physically week, but I kept pushing it away because I had all these things to do.
Mm.
So, and I had this chance for my husband and I to go away on a weekend, and I didn't want to fool with that weekend. So, I had ended up going to the hospital several times because I had fainted or I was having some pain, and, we did some tests, and the doctor said, okay, we'll do a surgery in the next week. And he wanted me to stay in to the hospital, but I wouldn't. I'm like, I really was great at talking my way out of things. So I talked myself out of, no way, I'm not staying in. I'm feeling better. We have the grandparents set up where, to stay with the kids. My husband and I are going to Montreal to the weekend, the first time away from the kids in a long time. And I went home. I convinced this doctor to let me go home, which was very foolish.
Mm.
So that night, my husband was actually a physician himself, and he was working in emergency overnight. And he was a little worried about me, so he sent the grandparents up to sleep at our house. I got all the kids settled in bed. The grandparents were sleeping downstairs, and I guess my uterine artery ruptured or began to rupture. It was very painful. But because of my programming, my parents nearly died at home as well, one from a heart attack, one from cancer. And it was just in my programming. You don't go to the hospital for unless you're dying. And I didn't think I was dying. But I did have a lot of pain, but I was used to pain. And when you're used to pain, you just keep putting it. And I didn't want to disturb the I did bang on the floor for a while, and we tried to call them, but the grandparents just took the phone off the hook. They thought it was just someone trying to call. And they didn't hear me banging upstairs. So I took a pain medication that I had for this, problem, and I stayed very still for the whole night. And first thing in the morning, my husband came and picked me up. We went straight to the hospital. The kids were gone to school by that time. The parents had got up. I must have fallen asleep at some point. And I wasn't there half an hour when internal bleeding, rushed into the hospital, and, had this complete surgery done. And it wasn't until I got home, like probably a week later, whenever you get out of the hospital after that kind of thing happens, that
Mhm.
sitting by myself in my living room, the kids were at school, the grandparents had the kids. And I had, when you have this kind of a way, I know you and I talked about a little bit, when you had this kind of transformation, this epiphany, this awakening of sorts, the room just filled with really thick energy.
Mm.
And everything slowed down. I'm getting a little chills now as I talk about it.
Mm.
Everything just slowed down. My thoughts slowed down. I don't even remember having thoughts.
Mm.
Um, Air got thick. I'm getting chills now as I remember the moment. And
Mm.
big epiphany just went through my body. And it might not sound big to you guys, but it was really big for me at the time.
Yeah.
And it was, you are wasting your life force energy.
You are what? Say
Wasting, like
Oh,
I'm
wasting.
wasting
Wasting your life
my
for
life force energy. I'm giving it away to everyone and doing all this busyness, all of this chaotic, with 3 kids, how busy that can be, all their activities, all the committees, all the volunteering. But it wasn't my true want or desire, maybe underneath all of that. I wanted to be a great mom for my kids. I wanted to be present in the community, but I didn't want to give away every fiber of myself and not living what I really came here to do, which is what I'm doing now, which I love. But it set me on that path. And right away, once that happened, it took me a while to process. But after I got physically better, I started meditating, not reading about meditation like I was doing, or maybe practicing a little bit here or there, but I started meditating every single day. And a number of things happened when I started meditating. One was I started crying a lot during the meditation.
Wow.
The griefs that we experience, and they're not all death griefs, even though I lost my dad at a very young age. The griefs that I hadn't fully processed before were just coming up. I didn't really know what it was about at the time, but I
Mhm.
cried very deeply for moments in almost every meditation. And I didn't think anything about it. I just cried and I just went back to
Wow.
meditation. Yeah, I didn't really process. I'd say that I processed things back here in my crown chakra, right? Or just back in the back of my mind. I just let it be whatever it was. Then after, say, 6 months of that, I started falling asleep during meditation because I was genuinely a tired soul.
Wow.
So
It
I let myself, sit up for as long as I did, and then I fell asleep. And my husband even used to call it sleepitation after a while. But it's what I needed, and I just let it be what I needed. And
mm,
then I love the next part of that. And I did other things in that time period too, but I'll just focus on this for a moment. And then the next part of that was I woke up in meditation. And
oh,
that
so what did it feel like?
yeah, so I woke up. So when you wake up in meditation, you become the observer of what is. So I could observe all of those all of those emotions that were coming up. I could observe all the mind energy that was coming up and not be in it. I had some space from it by then, because I also got to observe those blissful moments that you get to in meditation as well, you know? And it's not always blissful, as you know. It's sometimes very tumultuous, like the crying and the well, then the sleeping, and then the anger maybe comes up, all kinds of things and patterns come up. But I equate that waking up to also waking up consciously in my life. And then a lot of other things started to flow in
Yeah.
incongruency with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really well, what you've described, well, it brings up a couple things. One is this negation of the body, like, and especially even as and especially for women too, I feel like, there's just generations and generations, and there's a lot of religious indoctrination that your body is full of sin, and,
Yeah.
the body is bad, like, just don't pay attention to it, and yeah, it's interesting. It just brings up a lot of what I have seen, in previous generations of negating the body to such an extent that they never wake up, and they just really end up destroying their bodies and end up getting really, really seriously ill, right? Like, just the body breaking down. Um,
Like, isn't that amazing though that I
it's
was, I was so asleep in my life,
Yeah,
asleep.
well, it's like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I did the same thing where I felt like, no, you just kinda have to keep
Right,
pushing, like, don't, like, don't give in to what the body's screaming at you, like, I don't know where that it's just like this will that just, like, overrides the body. It's like, wow, and eventually, it has to go through some kind of reconciliation.
yeah, it's like if we don't, and you've probably talked about this before, if you don't listen to the whispers of
Yeah,
the body, of the whispers of the soul, and our body, I feel, is our antenna, is giving us all of this receptive information.
yeah,
And I was just ignoring it all. Like you said, I think it's a human condition. We're trained to keep, like you said, keep going, keep on the path, do your part,
yeah, totally
stay the
absurd.
course.
Like, it's just so deep. It's just so deep because it's been going on for generations, and I'm so yeah. So and I really am fascinated about your this journey through your meditation and this waking up. Can you share, like, actually what you noticed shift and changed within yourself and your life after reaching this place in consciousness where you realize, like, "Oh, I'm the observer. I'm not the things that are happening. I'm not my mind. Even I'm not my body," right? Did you have that awareness, like, that I'm also not my body? Yeah, what
Yeah,
changed?
I will say so much changed. And this was going on congruently with other things that I wanted to do. So I woke up, say, through my body, just basically splitting all wide open so that I could actually pay attention to what I wanted, give myself permission to do the things that I wanted. And that was also taking care of my children and doing some of those things, but not all of it. So
Yeah,
I wanted to get back to, and I hope I answer your question within this. I wanted to get back to the things that brought me true joy, which was teaching, which was writing, which was being playful. I had a real playful mom, and she just played every day. She
mm,
was a really hard worker and gave to the community, was a real humanitarian, but she found time to be playful and fun every day.
mm,
So to put that back into my life, I started, doing a writing course. Then I started writing a book with two friends. Then I started learning to become a spiritual life coach. So all of that, did Reiki, and that allowed more energy to move up and out. So
mhm,
that was all in congruency with the meditation and that opening up of becoming the observer. So to answer your question, becoming the observer to me opened everything,
Mhm.
because I could move from a highly sensitive person who had really pulled inward, who
Mhm.
was carrying around a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment, a lot of grief, not knowing what to do with it, probably picking up a lot from other people as well, to
Mhm.
now letting people own their own feelings. But
Mm.
I kept my own. Even just of being aware of my feelings, because when you become the observer, as you know, you also observe the emotional patterns that you're going through. So I actually could become aware of these feelings. I think before they were all just jumbled into one big overwhelm
Yeah,
or one big irritation
right.
that often came out. And I'm not talking about the fun side. The fun side is the fun side. The gentle side is the gentle side. But this side was stealing a lot of my energy
Mhm.
from enjoying all of that other stuff.
Mhm.
So, say I was largely had this underlying irritation, or I largely had this underlying anger that I didn't know where it belonged or who it belonged to. And so, the more I became the observer, I could start seeing that and working through those patterns of thought energy, those patterns of emotional energy that were really keeping me quite a prisoner in my own little jail that I had a big old lock on it.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah,
We are the ones that are keeping us from freedom. We often blame outside circumstances, people, relationships, our parents, whatever. We're blaming like, "Oh, well, that's the reason why I'm feeling, these things or why I'm so stuck," and, we fall into that victim mentality, and then once you realize that, "Oh, I'm the one actually that's creating all of this for myself." Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Like, yeah, you just mentioned like three of the biggies, right? One, taking responsibility for what's going on in my life, like really waking up to, I didn't know I was responsible for all of this agitation on the inside. I thought it was because of, like you just said, blaming the husband or the job or the getting mad at the children for no reason, or just mad at the world for all different kinds of reasons. We could find one every time we walk outside the house, right?
yeah,
But when you start taking responsibility fully, and again being in that observation mode, helps you change from an external point of focus to an internal point of focus. And really,
mhm,
that's where all of our power is. So once
yeah,
I got to, when I say I take back my power, it wasn't a power to inflict on others. It was a power for me to be responsible for all that I am, for all that I create, for all that I'm part of. And that really gave me back my power for all that I give my attention to or don't give my attention to.
yeah,
Really put me back in the driver's seat. And like you said about, we're not our body, we're not our mind, we're not our vision even. We are the culmination of all that, it packed into this, beautiful spiritual combination of that. So
yeah,
it allowed me to see my composite parts. And so I know that I'm not those thoughts that are going through my head and like blaming. I'm not even the thoughts about blaming someone else. I am a bigger energy than that. So it helps me return to oneness and feeling at one with everything that's around me. And it also helped me to stop pushing other things away. Because, if we feel anger and we don't like how uncomfortable that is, we want to push that away, right? Or bury it, or in all the myriad ways that we do that, right? Push it all down. But again, being the observer is like, oh, anger is not a bad thing. It actually brings gifts for me if I let it in, if I
mm,
let myself feel it and go into the body and process that in a healthy way. And then I can actually express my anger to the right person at the right time, in the right manner, to the right degree, instead of raging.
right.
right? So
Yeah.
now I'm responsible for that expression of anger, not the person who I think did something to make me angry.
Right.
Did that answer your question? I think a roundabout way went in there.
Yeah, yeah, no, it sounds like it just, waking up, just find your journey, like, when you first started meditating, you were saying, "Oh, I just cried a lot." I would imagine that some people, when they start to meditate and they maybe they have that experience of like, "Oh, wow, I'm crying," or "I'm really angry," or and they may end up stopping because they feel like, "This doesn't work for me. All it's doing is bringing up all this stuff, so I must not be getting right. It's supposed to be bringing me peace and, like, calm, and I'm not experiencing that." But it seems like when you radically accept that whatever is arising is what is, and to be with it and not to try to figure it out, because you said, "I was just crying." I didn't try to figure out why or what the story was behind it, just let myself experience it, and I've heard that from other teachers of just, yeah, you just, when the emotions come, we don't often know why, especially when you're meditating, you're going into deeper layers of your being and might not be in your conscious awareness of what's happening. And I've heard often that to just experience the emotions, don't try to figure them out, don't try to, "Oh, well, it's because of that one time when my dad did this, that, or the other thing, or the kid at school bullied me," or whatever. It's just, okay, feel the feelings, appreciate them, and then you just let them go, and you just, then you're open to the next experience.
Yeah.
Would you say that's how it was for you?
Yeah, I'd say because of the that epiphany, I was in a different state of accepting that this new path was just like an unfolding of all these different experiences. I don't think I had experienced grief that way. Even when my dad died, I have 10 siblings. There are 11 of us.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, when my dad passed, I mean, my mom must have been totally just overwhelmed with the whole experience of trying to hold everybody else together. So it's
Wow.
like there was a little barrier to our grief, and not to blame her in any way. I don't even know how she did it. I don't know how
Right,
she did it.
right.
So, but we weren't encouraged to go fully into that grief. We were encouraged to kind of hold it. Just let's get through. Let's get through. Let's
Yeah,
get
we gotta
through
survive. Yeah,
for your brother who can't be here today. Let's get through for your dad. Let's get through for and that was what we needed to do at the time, because that was a large group of energy for my mom to be handling on her own.
yeah. Mm.
So I would say when I started exploring that meditative process, I really had so many different experiences. It was all quite fascinating to me. And I think that's part of being the observer, to just be curious and fascinated about what's happening. And some of it's painful, but that's okay because there's pain inside of me. And I look at meditation as just a reflection of me. So whatever's going on in my session for that day is just what's inside of me that needs to be seen and validated and heard and allowed to come to the surface. So I didn't make it right or wrong or good or bad. Whatever showed up was just what showed up.
No judgment.
No judgment, but I wasn't conscious of that. I
Yeah,
was in that at the time. Now I have the vocabulary to describe that, but I didn't at the time. I
uh-huh,
just knew it was okay.
yeah,
Whatever it is, and that's real. That's one of the real benefits, isn't it, of being more conscious? Whatever is okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so funny, it's so simple, it's so simple. It really is, but, it's like hearing you say that reminds me of this breathwork teacher who I adore, and he's always just, "When your meditation, whatever's arising, if it's anger, it's okay. It's sadness, it's a little sadness, it's okay, it's all good." It's just like, you know, and you're like, Really? Is it that simple? Yeah, it is actually. So,
I
that's
love that so
yeah,
much. It's okay. But it truly is because it's when that we when we focus on it and make it wrong, like, "What's happening? I'm crying all the time. That's terrible," or, "What's
oh,
this
yeah,
anger about? It feels so bad," or, "Why do I feel so sad or so guilty?" We resist it then, right? We don't
yeah,
we? We resist it, and then the body gets tight and constricted, and then we feel all that chronic pain that we've been holding, and
yeah,
we make it bad. We say, "Oh, well, because I went into that pain," but you didn't really allow it. You resisted it by trying to push it away, which made it bigger and badder in your system, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's true for life though, isn't it, Tanya? Like if we I've learned to say, I'm okay right now, no matter what's going on. Like I'm really okay. When my daughter was diagnosed with leukemia at 15, it was a real shocker. And I remember my husband calling me and telling me, and again, it was one of those moments and this was after I had moved into this work. And thank God that I did, because then I was able to be okay in it. And it was one of those moments where everything again, the air gets thick. I think
Mm,
what happens is you're brought to the truest part of yourself. Like the trauma comes in and something you allow, I don't know what, the divine comes in and brings you to this truer moment to yourself where there's nothing but you and the survival of your life. And in
yeah,
this case, the survival of my daughter's life, which to me is even, as a mom, is even bigger than I would have traded places with her in a second if I could.
yeah.
And the same thing happened. Like I heard, that song, Inch by Inch? I can't sing very well. Row by row. It's John Denver.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
let your garden grow. So it's like inch by inch. Just take it little step by little step. That was playing in my ears as I heard my husband tell me what was going on. And, the air, he was going to medevac. They were being medevac to the next biggest city. And um, everything just got really still. And I just heard, I'm okay right now. She's okay right now, even right now in this moment, she's okay. My
yeah,
husband's okay. My other two kids are okay. We're all going to pack up and we're going to go out and we're going to be okay together in this new spot, just from moment to moment, just inch by inch, like John Denver was singing in my ear. It's very fascinating when you're brought back to those traumatic experiences where it's just you and your survival and you or your family's survival. It really brings you into fully blown, I think, conscious living, because that's all you have in that moment.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. I hope people are I hope this is landing because there's such a deep wisdom and energy there as you're speaking. It's like, yeah, taking it all in, giving yourself the space and the time to be compassionate, to love yourself, to love everything that's arising, and to know there's no rush. There's nothing to figure out, you know?
Yeah,
Just
exactly. No rush.
allowing yourself to just open as slowly as it needs to open, and it's all in perfect timing. There's just so much love and peace in what you're saying, and I just appreciate that a lot. It's very moving.
Thank you.
Uh,
I'm happy to share those because
yeah.
I do think it's not just, my traumas in my life, but I know we all have those
Yeah.
in the little tiny ways and in those big, big ways.
Yeah.
And I think when you handle them in the big ways, then you learn to handle them in the little tiny ways. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
yeah,
true. It's like, life doesn't always give us these little nice little bite-sized pieces. Sometimes it is a tsunami that comes and
right.
just like really rocks our world, and we're in it and it's just the weather, and so I think in those really, really challenging moments where it does feel like a tsunami, if you can get to that place where it's like, okay, even though this feels really hard and I'm really scared and I don't know what's going to happen next and I don't know what it is I'm supposed to do or anything, you just feel like I just choose to trust that everything's unfolding, and I trust that I can handle whatever's coming my way, you know? Um,
Absolutely. You reminded me of a story that I was teaching a meditation class, I think, and one of the ladies there, I didn't know because I didn't know everybody in the class at the time. She put up her hand. It was question time. Like, did you have any questions? And she said, yes, she had gone through a very personal traumatic event and cancer related, very close to death herself. And she had experienced that awakening, that consciousness that allowed her to be very present with herself. The things that you're saying allowed her to be gentle and take care of herself. And she said, how do I get back there? How do I get that now?
yeah,
I think that's such a brilliant question because, and I believe my answer at the time was, and is what I really truly believe, it's always here for us. It's always here. We have that access to it now. It's a matter of returning our focus to it and slowly wiping away like all of the layers that are keeping us from accessing that presence that's always there
yeah.
underneath that daily activity, the busyness, the upsets, the trauma dramas, it's
Mhm.
underneath there just waiting for us to return to it, give our
Mm,
attention to it. And I think that's what consciousness is about too.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's so amazing. I love that so much.
Mhm.
Um, so you have a quick start method to help grow awareness. Do you have time to share that? I
I
don't know.
want to do a little bit of it. Let's see how we're doing. Let's just start it because it does take like maybe when I teach it, like in my program or in a class, it's
Yeah.
probably an hour. But I'm going to try to like just reduce it so you can get a little access to a few of the,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
And-
just so you know, I do have to be off,
okay.
in 20 minutes, so if it's more than that, I don't wanna have you start something that you're not gonna be able to finish.
I'll just do the first two little parts. It's like a
Okay.
five-step process. So let's do the first two parts because I think everybody's probably heard about these before, maybe even practiced these before.
Yeah.
But I want to emphasize, and I can do that after or at the beginning. Like even before I started this path, I thought I was dipping my toes into all kinds of conscious practices. And that's what I was doing. I thought I was into all kinds of conscious practice, but I wasn't actually doing them
Mm,
on a in a disciplined way on a daily basis. And I'm not talking about hours of practice. I'm just
mm,
talking about getting your practice to returning to yourself and getting rid of all these layers just in little bits of things every day so that you can build what it feels like to be in that space. And that's how we like get access to it faster and faster because we build it every day. And it's these two little simple things that we're going to do now.
okay.
Let's start the process. And I'm sure you're very familiar with them. So the first step is just to move out of fight or flight into rest and relaxation, right? Move out of that busy mind, dukes up position, I call it, because you're like protecting yourself all the time from
Mhm.
from whatever. I don't know what we're protecting ourselves, but we have this need to like be sensitive about what people are saying or get involved in drama that we don't need to be in or to get angry or upset over things that really are not ours to be upset or angry about. So we want to move out of that protective nature into rest and relax. And we're going to do that with our breath because we come here with our breath. We
Mm,
leave when we take our last breath, we leave this particular life.
mhm.
And so it is our access. It's amazing to me that we're carrying this around with us wherever we go. And it's truly our access to becoming more conscious. I just love the perfection of it. But
Yeah,
do we use it all the time? No, because we haven't either learned to or because it just feels like too much work or whatever. We have reasons why we just don't want to give attention to it. Part of that is because we're comfortable with the familiar, which is not doing this.
yeah. Mm,
So these first two little parts are going to train your brain, your mind, um, that your bigger spirit is the leader in this life. And when we let the bigger spirit lead, the bigger energy, whatever you want to call it, then things go more smoothly for us. Then we access a lot of those higher energy emotions like enthusiasm and happiness and joy. And we can let go some of those emotional patterns in the lower vibrational emotions like anxiety and frustration and procrastination. We can name them all, right?
Mhm.
So, how we do that is going into our deeper breath. So, we're going to use our belly breath. And most of us are breathing, right, daily from our chest, very shallow breath, or our nose, which is even more shallow breath. But we're going to go right down to the belly. So can we do that together, Tanya?
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Let's just do 3 big deep breaths to move ourselves into a rest and relax state, an open-hearted state, an alpha state. So here we go. Nice big inhale. And let nice long exhale. Beautiful. And do another inhale. And a nice long exhale. Relaxing the jaw, shoulders. Getting a little wiggle room in our energy. And we're going to breathe in one more time. Inhale. And just hold a second at the top, letting our mind know that we're the boss, not going to be led around by our minds. And exhale. And then just take a nice little cleansing breath at the end. And just sense and observe your energy now. I usually feel, what do you feel, Tanya?
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely felt energy moving around my body. In different areas I could feel that were tight, more constricted, and just, letting that be and then feeling it release and let go and just sort of, yeah, this kind of dance between feeling the constrictions and then this larger feel that I felt like was holding me in the process. And
Oh,
so
I love that. I love that description because that's exactly what I feel. It's like you get some space, your tight constricted energy kind of moves out. And
mhm,
with that, you get that field all around you, which feels like, wow, I've got room to move in here. I've got room to respond in here. I
yeah,
don't have to be so reactionary, so tight, so dukes up. I can be really open heart, right? That's what's happening. We're expanding and we're
yeah,
getting to that alpha state. Beautiful. So now the next step is we're going to fine tune our facilities, let's call them our senses. Because when we tune them, we can live our life through our senses first rather than through our protective mind energy. And what that does for us is it's going to open up the observer field even more, which are one of the primary aspects of becoming more conscious. We want to be able to see what's going on in our life so that we can start responding instead of reacting. So we can start processing. And
mm,
processing our life through our senses is way faster and way more efficient than processing through our minds. And I would say even way more enjoyable. Because, like we were talking about, I think what you said was so important. Like being able just to be in the moment, like we talked about right from the beginning, be in whatever's happening. This is going to help you do that because you're processing through the senses and not the protective mind energy. And it's so simple. So what did it take us to do? Like a minute to do the first part,
right,
right? And then this is going to take another couple of minutes. And you're going to be on your way to starting to opening up that beautiful space for processing your life in a much healthier way. So let's just close our eyes again. And we're going to fine tune our facilities, our senses. And we're going to start with the sense of smell. So take a nice big breath. And we're just going to notice what we smell. And in order to do that, we're just going to take quick little sniffs in. Can you notice anything?
No, I don't, but I also don't have the best sense of smell.
Oh, that's a really good example that you're bringing up. So, and it's because it can be more fine-tuned.
Yeah.
If you believe you don't have, the thing. If you believe you don't have the best sense of smell, and you don't rely on that sense of smell, and you don't fine-tune that sense of smell, then you're not going to have that access. So, can we try to let the mind sit aside,
Mhm.
and you let your nose do the work? And it's okay if you don't smell anything today. But just to practice the sensation of fine tuning and sharpening your sense of smell. Try one more time. And it's okay if you don't smell. Just notice. And if a thought's popping in that you think you smell something, you can share that too.
Mm. I guess I smell dust. It sounds like I must have a dusty room right now. I need to dust.
But your nose is picking up some dusty smell. I know what you mean, like that warm, dusty smell. Yeah, that's wonderful because you think that your nose is not picking up much, but you can make that much more sensitive.
Very subtle.
So I'm going to go into mine and just share. I smell a few things, but I'll go with the biggest one. I have a puppy who just had surgery and she's here. So I can smell, some kind of that vet smell that's going on. It's probably the biggest smell. And it's not, negative or positive. It's just a smell that I'm picking up. Okay, now I'm going to ask us to fine tune that sense. We're going to do it again, just going in through the sense of smell. And we're going to see what we can pick up that's a little lighter than the dust and the puppy from the vet. And if you think you smell it, that's good enough. I'm smelling like a slight perfumey smell. I think I sprayed like a chakra spray on before we started, and I'm picking that up.
Mm.
Anything for you?
Yeah, I think I'm picking up on subtle dog we have 2 dogs, so,
Mhm.
there's probably, like, a little bit of dog smell in my carpet from all
Awesome.
of their shit. I would say I'm picking up on that, but it's very subtle, it's not strong.
Yeah, beautiful. So already those two smells that you probably wouldn't even have noticed, you have brought into your awareness now. That's what we're doing, right? We're
Mhm,
using our senses to bring us into our body because our body's our antenna and
mm.
to sense what's going on around us. The next one's kind of easy. Just scan the room and see if you know what you notice first with your eyes.
Mhm.
You want to share?
I see my basket of laundry. I'm noticing the light and how it's reflecting off the lamp here.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, just what. And now we'll look one more time.
Mhm.
And what didn't you notice the first time? Something a little more subtle as you just scan the room.
Yeah, I didn't stop to notice the shadows and the gradient of light on the walls and how that changes. Um, yeah.
So a little more, yeah, a little more subtle. And you could even do these, I would do these 3 times to even go to the most, where we really have to tune in to
Mhm.
feel that third sound.
Mhm.
And we really have to sweep the room and notice. Again, we're looking almost. We're putting our focus and our energy on actually trying to notice something.
Right. It's like the details, my eyes are going more into the details of like, oh, I'm looking at my shawl and I'm noticing the wrinkles in that, and, how on every object there's, the light and the shadow and the way that's playing out, and yeah, which is something I don't t we just like, "Oh, yeah, there's my bottle, there's my bed, there's that," and then we dismiss it, but
Right,
there's this, like, "Oh, wait, there's a lot going on here." Like, how interested can I become in
right.
something? And
Yeah,
it stills the mind for sure. I notice the chatter goes away.
yeah, because we're getting out of the mind into the body. Beautiful. And I loved how you mentioned you saw the light, you saw the shadow, right? And then you notice the details. And that's almost consciousness in a little like
Yeah,
the shadow and the light and the details of
yeah,
the moment. So it's
yeah.
really beautiful how you just brought that right through. Okay, let's do, if we have time, we're just going to keep going with that for another second. How are you for time now?
5 more minutes?
Okay, yeah, we should clue up. We'll do one more, which is let's do the feeling. So again, we're just going to take a breath. And now we're just going to notice what we're feeling. That could be internally or externally, like maybe the pressure of your leg on the chair. I like
Mm,
starting that way because it's easy and there's nothing threatening about it. I can feel the cool metal uh, touching my arm. And now I'm just going to switch to the inside. I can feel a real peace and joy at being here and speaking with you in this last 40 minutes that we've had together. Feeling happiness and expansion in my heart.
mm. I can feel since my legs are crossed, I can feel that my left foot is starting to fall asleep.
Okay.
And I'm noticing I can feel the quality my shirt against my skin, how it rests there. I'm feeling the warmth in my hands and the weight of my body in the chair. And internally, I have this feeling of, oh, I don't know, it just feels like potential, um, this power and this potential that's there, that's like I'm just curious about that, I'm not sure, but that's kinda how I feel. It might feel like a little bit like pressure, but I have this sense that there's anyway, that's what I'm noticing.
Beautiful, really beautiful. And do you see how you make it easy? We can make it easy just by
Yeah,
going with pressure at first, because that's so easy. You might feel the air on our skin, or like you said, the pressure, and you felt your tingly foot. And then we're working our way into what's going on the inside, because that's what we also want to start noticing more of. So we can bring that wiggle room in our life. We can process our emotions through the body, which is the only way they really process in a healthy way, so that we can receive the gifts of all those emotions on the other side. And so we can start opening up our awareness and shining the light of consciousness on the shadows, on the details, on the things that are going to bring us to that present moment. So we can
yeah.
feel better. I can go on, so I'm going to stop now so we can clue up ourselves.
Well, yeah, so I guess, yeah, to close out, what I really appreciate what you're teaching is just this that the doorway to consciousness is through your own vessel, your own vehicle. It's not about following somebody else's beliefs or, it's really these practices that bring people back to themselves to discover what's actually so for them. And
Mhm.
and it's not about forcing, it's not about like, okay, we're gonna chant some mantras, or we're going to like do, 100 affirmations, or it's really just this feeling of allowing what wants to unfold. And really that's the path, right? It's not A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just this inner landscape that we get to go into and travel and discover, and it just feels so much more organic and natural, and room for spontaneity, and it's not formulaic. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah,
It really is about the study of yourself
yeah,
and creating some space to start looking at yourself. And
yeah,
yeah, there's ways that we do that. And there's, exercises that'll help you. But it really is like you said, your path, your study of yourself, and what you discovered is uniquely yours. And how you excavate that and then transmute it into your daily life is again going to be uniquely yours
yeah,
at the end of the day. So
yeah,
it's the beauty of self-knowledge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful. Veronica, thank you so very much. Those of you that are watching, if you're watching the replay, let us know if you have questions. Drop your questions. You can find Veronica at veronicaconnors.com. Look into her offers and what she has to share with all of us. And thank you so much for just the generosity of your time and your wisdom and your story. It was very inspiring, very, yeah, inspiring, inspiring. Like you make it very simple. So thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. It was so fun talking with you, Tanya. We could probably talk a lot longer. It's just so fun. And I really enjoyed your perspective on all of it as well. So thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye, everyone.